Hello.
That took longer than I thought. Hey, folks, welcome to another pulse pounding episode of Wild Cards. And before we go any further, let me play our contractually obligated theme music.
It's like smooth and jazzy. I love it.
Perfect for a Saturday night. Gets the job done every time. I'm Mike Lafferty. I am one of the hosts. I am the secondary emergency backup host. The primary host of Wild Cards is Mr. Ross Watson. How you doing, Ross?
I'm doing great. Thank you for that intro, Mike. You're actually the power behind the throne, and without you, this thing would not happen. So let's be clear about that. But we're going to welcome our guest, GM James from Knights of the Smith Dinner Table. Welcome to the show, James.
Thank you. Thank you very
Welcome.
much.
I'm raising my emotional support beer in your direction, sir. Good to have you tonight.
Thank you.
You know, you were actually, this is going to be great, but you're actually the first guest is here by fan demand.
Really?
Yes. We were on the
Yes.
Savage Universe podcast, and we asked the assembled crowd, hey, who took to see on our show? And you had several goblins, I guess is what you call your fans, in the crowd who said, GM James, we want GM James. And then
now
one guy saying, we want Barabbas. We didn't listen to him, we listened to your fans. And so here you are. Little Bible humor there, folks. Sorry.
Wow.
So deep cuts. But yeah, so you guys, why don't I let you explain to our audience, what does you guys do?
We are a group of friends and acquaintances who create actual play games of both Pathfinder and Savage Worlds, with a heavy leaning towards Savage Worlds. From my understanding, we are actually climbing the ranks to be one of the bigger shows out there for actual plays in Savage Worlds. Not quite up to the Gone Rogue Studios yet, but who knows? Maybe someday we'll catch up with them. We've been doing it since 2019.
Nice. 4 years.
Does the fame and the fortune, does it start disturbing your life yet?
No. The only one of us who really has fans is my wife, and it's because of the character that she plays in our Tales from the Deadlands podcast.
What character does she play?
She plays Daisy. Daisy is an 8-year-old little girl that lost her family, her entire immediate family, to dysentery. And so she
went
got
on the Oregon Trail.
Nope, she was from Kansas. She got on a train to go and live with her auntie in California when the whole adventure begins. And Daisy is, well, frankly, Daisy is terrifying. She's a little girl who doesn't realize that she is a murder hobo.
Well, that sounds awesome. So, so you've been doing this for 4 years, and you say you run Pathfinder and Savage Worlds. Do you also run Savage Pathfinder?
Actually, we do. On every other Monday night, we currently have the Snows, which is a live stream of the Pathfinder First Edition Adventure Path Reign of Winter, and I have converted it over to Savage Pathfinder rules. We have Phil from the Savage Eperon podcast that used to be around, as well as Connor. He used to do a Shadowrun. I can't remember his last name off the top of my head. He used to do a Shadowrun podcast. Two of my own folks, plus David Scott from Atomic Ninja Studios, is also playing with us.
Awesome.
And hopefully, Eric from Norse Foundry, the guy who everybody knows with the long, blonde, luxurious hair, will be joining the cast soon.
Fantastic. And how many episodes do you have of that?
We are currently 4 episodes in. We would have been 6 in. However, Gen Con happened, and then I got COVID after Dragon Con.
Oh.
Yeah. So it hit me hard this time around.
Yeah. Note to all our listeners, the pandemic is still ongoing. Just keep that in mind. It may seem like it's over, but it's actually not. Well, that's interesting. So, how do you guys choose what campaign you want to play as an actual play?
Usually my co-GM, Mike, Random Nerdum on Twitter. Well, I guess it's called X now. It'll always be Twitter in my viewpoint. But the two of us sit down and we usually kind of brainstorm back and forth, and whichever ones strike our fancy, we'll start asking our cast members / players and get a little bit of feedback from there. And one of the big ones that we've got coming up that's actually going to replace our second edition Pathfinder game is a Savage Rifts campaign called
Woo!
A Rift to the Past.
Nice.
I'm not going to give away much more than that. Just those of us who have been playing as long as I have, I started in 1985. You guys will hopefully recognize the adventures that I have converted to Savage Rifts.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well,
Is
as one of the guys deeply involved in Savage Rifts, I can say I approve of this. This sounds awesome.
Are we looking at Deadlands Rifts crossover?
Not yet. That is actually, it's funny you mentioned crossover.
Oh God.
Mike is working on a campaign where we start out in ETU with ETU characters, and then it's going to be a wild tour of all of the official and ACE campaign worlds as we just hop from one campaign world to the next, chasing whatever big bad evil guy he's got planned for us.
Wild.
It's going to be a fun one. And I actually get to
cool.
play Savage Worlds instead of just being the game master.
That's always a treat. Well, hey, my company published the After, so if you need any of those PDFs or whatever, just hit me up.
Oh, I definitely will then, because the After is actually on our list to give it a shot, and
Yeah,
then
same-
decide whether or not we're going to add it.
Ditto for Accursed.
Nice.
One of the other ones we've got coming up, our Lost Colony show. We're doing the plot point campaigns, and we're going to finish the first plot point, the Devil You Know. Then we're going to do Dead End, hence our link with Atomic Ninja Studios. We're going to do the first arc of that, and then come back to Maw of Oblivion for the second part. We're going to kind of alternate back and forth between those two stories. So we've got a lot going on.
So tell me, how do you interact with the fans of your different campaigns?
Mostly through email and Facebook Messenger. We're easy to reach that way. For the live stream, those who come on, we'll actually chat with them right as we go. And we haven't had a lot of fan interaction there yet, just because live streaming is something that's relatively new to us. So we're hoping to pick that up quite a bit.
What are some of the advantages and challenges of using Savage Worlds for a live stream show like yours?
So the advantages are it's Savage Worlds. I mean, I think that explains it all.
Mic drop, boom.
It's fast, fun, and furious.
Indeed it is. But like, and I discussed this a while back on another show. One of the things I love about Savage Pathfinder is if you read the adventures and you read the novels, Galarian is a pulp fantasy world, hands down, in my opinion. And as much as I love the folks at Paizo, a D20 system just doesn't grab that pulp feel that Savage Worlds does. So
Yeah, I've been surprised at how popular Savage Pathfinder is, and I played it once or twice, and it really, I always kind of dread playing traditional fantasy role-playing systems because it takes, let's look at this chart, let's look at this chart. Oh, wait a second, what's the damage resistance of that door frame? And but yeah, Savage Worlds solves that problem nicely because it's fast.
it is
Fun and
Indeed.
furious.
Mm-hmm.
Challenge-wise is, I mean, we're always competing with the big market share folks. We've got Critical Role on one side, we've got the Glass Cannon podcast on the other, and so we're always trying to pull market share from them. That's just the nature of the beast when you're doing the same thing that somebody else is. And fortunately, playing in Savage Worlds, we've already got a pretty solid fan base built up. Because you either love Savage Worlds or you're wrong, right?
Yeah, I mean, competing with Critical Role, I mean, those guys have Amazon accounts and $1 million Kickstarters and stuff. That's that's a David versus Goliath story right there.
Indeed.
So, how do you? We've talked about streaming and building an audience before, and you mentioned, I mean, pretty much anywhere in the RPG field, there's a couple of guys who grab all the eyeballs, and then there's those of us who are the remoras swimming around the sharks, trying to steal off a few of the tidbits from their mouth. How do you build your audience and keep them engaged?
A lot of it I have done just through sheer tenacity. I also work for Arkham Forge Tabletop, so I get to go to the conventions and I run all the booths for them. And while I'm there, I leave my crew and I go out and I just start making connections. That's how we got the partnership with Norse Foundry, because Eric there loves our Tales from the Deadlands show. So he helped us get a partnership there. We already have a partnership with Arkham Forge, and honestly, it's just getting out there and getting the word out. Whether it's through social media or meeting people in person. And let
Or
me tell you,
huge podcasts like Banff.
yeah, true, very true. And Savage Universe has helped a lot too.
No doubt.
But it's just sheer tenacity on our part. We don't give up, and we've seen our fan base steadily grow. And it helps that word of mouth is so incredibly powerful.
That's how you got here.
Yeah.
Legitimately.
It is incredibly powerful. Like, somebody listens to our show, they love it, they tell their friends about it, say, hey, you got to check this out. And it just blows my mind because we haven't been able, my family is in the process of moving literally to the opposite corner of the state, and we haven't been able to record Tales from the Deadlands in a while because of that, because that's the one where it requires my wife and I to both be playing at the same time. And it just blows my mind because when we paused the recordings on that, we only had 1,500 downloads of the podcast. And it's been almost a year, and we're almost up to 5,000 downloads of the podcast. And we haven't recorded anything new for it as much as we want to. But it's just, that show just keeps on going and going. And I love to see that people are still spreading the word about it and getting excited for when we can finally start recording again.
Nice. We should probably mention a lot of folks who are going to pick this up on Google Podcasts or iTunes. We got a banner scrolling across the bottom of the screen because we are technically proficient in a high production value podcast. But if you're listening, you can't see it. So that's Knights of the Smith Dinner Table.com is where you can check out what GM James is doing. And I'm assuming get links to all of his archived live streams and get a link to his Twitch channel and all that. I'm guessing you have a merch store too with t-shirts and whatnot.
We don't have a merch store yet. That is on the to-do list. I have a whole stack of t-shirts of varying sizes that I'm going to be putting up there. The buttons that like Paizo hands out, we've got a bunch of those. So yeah, those are going to definitely be going up on the shop, hopefully before too much longer.
Okay. So Knights of the SmithDinnerTable.com. Check it out. And Ross, I feel like I cut you off there like you're taking a breath where you're going to say something. So
No, I think you're doing great. I just I was going to say we are an artisanally crafted podcast, only the finest homegrown free range materials.
Farm to table.
Farm to table, absolutely. Yeah. Now, a question for you, GM James. Knights of the Smith Dinner Table, great name. Is it at all connected to the Knights of the Dinner Table magazine?
So growing up, back in the old days, the 1980s, 1990s, my favorite comic was Knights of the Dinner Table.
Woo!
And I discussed the name with several of our folks, and they all agreed. It's a great homage to something that we all loved as kids. And since we were also literally started out playing at my dinner table, much to my wife's chagrin at times, it just fit.
Awesome. I would love to see if there's any Easter eggs in there about New Kyle Ra or the Great Conch Shell or the Bag Wars. That would be pretty hilarious.
Maybe in some of our older episodes, but you'll have to dig for them.
Oh, hear that? Hear that, fans? There are Easter eggs out there for hunting. I love it.
So we had to mark before the show. You have got an amazing looking logo. Where'd that come from?
So that was created by an artist by the name of Devin Knight. He specializes in top-down tokens for VTTs and he's just an amazing artist, and he's actually become a pretty decent friend of mine over the years. He only lives a couple hours from me now, and I was like, hey, how much would it cost me to do this? And he's like, well, let me give this a shot. And he loved it so much, he just gave it to us. He didn't charge us for the artwork at all. And he is just such an amazing artist, and I love the job that he did on it.
Yeah, I'd say it's you got a lot of value out of it. It's really, really nice. If anybody can't see the logo because you're listening to us rather than watching us, it's a pretty sweet logo, and you can probably check it out at the Smith Dinner Table.com. I'm going to do that every time, unfortunately. Sorry about that. Knights of the Smith Dinner Table.com.
Smith is the important detail there. But yeah, the other one just rolls off the tongue so easily because we all been reading that comic for decades.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can see it, but I've got a signed picture of B.A. Felton behind me up there on the top shelf. So, big fan. Anyways, moving on. Do you guys ever plan to do a live show?
We would love to, but that's one of those things where, like right now, we just have the live stream of the Reign of Winter podcast, but we would love to follow in the footsteps of Glass Cannon and go to conventions and do live shows like they do. But that's one of those things, we got to get our name out there a little bit more, and hopefully it will happen.
Well, if you ever feel like coming to Colorado, Genghis Khan is a really nice gaming convention, and they've got space for people to set up a stream of a show. So
we will have to look into that.
Should we do Wildcards live from Genghis Khan?
Oh man, wouldn't that be amazing? we could do live show while they're doing their live show. We could like force a choice. You have to watch us or them, or we could do it like in like not competition, but more like, you know, after the Knights of the Smith Dinner Table, watch Wildcards.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it would be like kind of like the Ready Room after Lower Decks. Because you and I do a fun, punchy 20 or 30 minutes. I'm guessing an average session Knights of the Smith Dinner Table is probably 3 to 4 to 6 hours.
Up until recently, we've been doing 1 hour episodes. Cool. The Lost Colony, we decided to give it a try to go to the longer format. Mm-hmm. And so they can be anywhere from 1.5 to 3 hours, depending on where we get in the story.
Mm-hmm.
Is that length pre or post edit?
Post edit.
Okay.
How much time do you spend on the edit process?
Way too much.
Yeah. That's one reason I go through it, is I hate to edit audio.
I am self-taught for the most part. I get a lot of help from Zach Kreitler, who was in the Dimension Door podcast. He's an audio engineer for a living. So when I get stuck on something, I'm like, hey, Zach, give me a hand here. And he's just been an amazing resource helping me learn how to do it.
Yeah, that's actually one reason I was extraordinarily happy when StreamYard came out, because I was trying for years and years messing around with OBS, and it was just killing me. So yeah, StreamYard. Not that StreamYard. If you'd like to promote my podcast, please give me a call. But not that I'm pimping for them. But oh boy, they made.
We are accepting sponsors.
We are accepting sponsors.
So are the Knights.
Yeah, I had an offer of sponsorship. I don't know if I told you. I had an offer of sponsorship. And I did not respond because I felt weird about it.
Was it Raid Shadow Legends?
It was a male grooming product.
Oh, I bet I know the one.
Yeah, we don't need to say the name on the air because I was like, I would just feel weird pausing the show and saying, and now, fellas, do you ever? And just, yeah.
The one sponsor that we do have, Poppets Coffee, we always hit them up at the beginning and the end of the show, so that way I don't have to pause in the middle of it.
Yeah, that's smart.
Well,
I've been listening to Talking Sopranos sometimes at work, just as background noise, and it's a couple of the actors from Sopranos going through an episode, and they have a lot of sponsor deals, and it's usually for products for middle-aged men. So they're talking about, and yeah, exactly, and me, and I think Ross, and they'll be talking about, all right, we whack this character for the following reason, set this plot lines. And hey, fellas, do you ever struggle with ED? Well, let me tell you, as a 65-year-old man, I find the following product to be very like it breaks up the continuity of the conversation and kind of changes the tone completely. And Yeah.
That's exactly the reason why I put ours at the beginning and at the end, right? So that way we don't break up the continuity and destroy the immersion.
Yeah, I would agree. That's actually one problem I've had trying to listen to Critical Role is I get a few minutes into it and and then all of a sudden there's a hard break and they're talking about whatever product. And I don't know if they still do that, but yeah.
Well,
I haven't watched them in a long time.
let's talk more about GM James's show.
Yes,
While
sorry.
we're on this topic here, for someone who hasn't listened to the show, like myself, what are some highlights that you would want to? Is there a highlight reel of your campaigns that you use to tell people about? And if there is, what is it?
I have, for our Tales from the Deadlands, I have on our TikTok channel added a few of the Daisy Learns French minis. And with my personal favorite being, and I think it stopped us from recording for like almost 10 minutes solid because we were all laughing. Daisy asked Chuck, the restaurateur, his words, not mine, how to speak French. And his first word, and for those of you who speak French will get a kick out of this, was merde.
Uh,
Which
a man of taste, I see.
Which she somehow turned into murder. So it's a whole series on our TikTok channel, which there's links to it from our website, where Chuck is teaching Daisy French, and it is absolutely hilarious to listen to. Because my wife never goes the route that you would expect with the words that she's being taught.
Amazing. Do you have a personal favorite moment that's happened in your campaign so far?
Oh, there's so many. It's like asking me to choose a favorite child.
Well, one of any personal favorites.
I would have to say this one's a little more recent, and it was my own fault. During the Colony of the Damned, I had stuck in the Savage Tale called from Widowmaker called 310 to Goliath's Belt. And when they're facing off with this female psyker, and they find out that her ship is just an abattoir, kind of creep them out, and they go back and they're talking to her about it. And you can see on the faces of the players, I actually creeped the players out with this character.
Nice.
And you can see it physically on their faces where they're all kind of just like shuddering. And
nice.
I count that as a win.
No, that's at any table in any campaign, that is absolutely a win. Well done to you, sir. That is great. Is there?
I think that was the second or third episode of it when it happened.
We're getting low on time here, so I'm gonna just ask like a couple of quick follow-up questions. But have you learned any big lessons over the last 4 years about actual play podcasting that you'd say are really important to know?
Audio is everything. Hands down, 100%. If you don't have an audio engineer working for you, you've got to learn how to do it, because if your audio is terrible like ours was at first, nobody's going to listen. No matter how good of a story that you're going to tell, if you get a lot of echo or anything like that, people just don't want to hear that. They want to hear, at least if not like professionally done, a cleanly done audio setup.
Yeah, I find the biggest bugaboo I've had in that was just making sure everyone you're working with has good connection.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
You can edit all you want. If someone starts to lag and goes into Cylon voice, there's not much you can do to salvage that.
Nope.
Is scheduling ever an issue?
Here of late it has been, just because I started a new day job, our family's moving, conventions through the summer, but most of the time we don't have a whole lot of issues with scheduling because everybody knows what the schedule is going to be. So unless something big happens in somebody's life, usually most shows we're 2 or 3 episodes ahead on our recording. So
got a little wiggle room there.
A little bit, yep.
Nice. Okay, well, I think that has satisfied pretty much all the questions I have. Mike, what do you think? Is there any particular thing you'd want to know about the Knights of the Smith dinner table?
Well, I just wanted to mention you can find them on YouTube.
Woo!
If you're looking for a quick dose of Knights of the Smith Dinner Table, just youtube.com/at Knights of the Smith Dinner Table. And they've got various playlists for the various campaigns, and it's a quick way to check it out. So,
And all of our shows are available wherever you pod.
Everywhere you want to pod, they're there. So that's a beautiful thing. It has been a pleasure talking to you, sir. I'm sorry it took us long to get you on.
No, it's as
great.
much my fault as anybody's. So my life has been a little crazy lately, but I definitely wanted to get this done.
If you little goblins out there want to see more of GM James, let us know about it. You can reach out to us at Banff Podcasts, right, Mike?
On the site formerly known as Twitter.
That's right.
And we're also on Blue Sky because we are cool, like all the hip kids.
We haven't gotten our invite yet.
Do you want one?
Absolutely.
All right.
Drop us a message there. We will hook you up.
Hey, I think I got an extra one right now. I have 3. So after the show, I will give you one. And
Thank you.
We're on the Facebooks because we're also old. And that's where old people do social media.
That's true.
You can find us.
And of all places, TikTok. Who knew Xers were so popular there?
TikTok is huge. I used to interview writers, and there's so many writers who were like, "Yeah, my agent told me, you got to be on TikTok. Like, you're selling books, you're selling romance novels and science fiction books. Why do you have to be on TikTok? TikTok's huge. Everyone's on TikTok." So I'm scared of it because I hear there's a ridiculous amount of tracking that app does.
Well,
but
if there's one thing that's true about the nerd community is that we embrace change. Absolutely embrace it. There's never any pushback. There's never any reluctance. It's just pure acceptance, 24/7.
And this is when I realized Ross was being sarcastic.
I mean, just a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on, GM James. I really enjoyed having you tell us all about your show. And again, if you guys want us to bring him back, let us know, and we will see if we can arrange another discussion.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
All right, cool. And we'll be back hopefully in 2 weeks with more Wild Cards. Until then, keep it fast, fun, and furious, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.